The words hit me like a physical blow, each one a shard of glass shattering the fragile peace I'd built. She was so unstable after the breakup. My mother's voice, clear and chillingly casual, echoed through the family room, a room I'd believed was safe. My aunt, a woman I'd always seen as kind, leaned in conspiratorially. Always so dramatic, our Ilara. Remember the breakdown she had last year? They didn't see me standing just outside the doorway, frozen, clutching a tray of forgotten appetizers. My carefully guarded secret, my quiet battle with anxiety and depression after a devastating relationship, was now their casual gossip. The air thickened with their whispers, a poisonous fog spreading through the festive hum of the annual holiday gathering. Every laugh, every sympathetic nod from my other relatives felt like a judgment. I fled to my room, the noise of the party a distant, mocking echo. The betrayal was a searing brand on my soul, far worse than the original pain of my mental health struggles. For years, I'd been the quiet one, the diligent daughter, always striving for my parents' elusive approval. My older brother, Marcus, was the golden child, charismatic and irredeless. I, Ilara, was the shadow, the one who tried too hard, whose achievements were always met with a lukewarm nod, never genuine pride. My parents had a way of downplaying my struggles, often dismissing them as overthinking or being too sensitive. My vulnerability was a weakness they preferred to keep hidden, not to protect me, but to preserve their image. The breakup last year had been catastrophic. It wasn't just a failed relationship, it shattered my sense of self, pulling me into a darkness I'd never experienced. I'd fought my way back, inch by agonizing inch, through therapy and medication, keeping my journey fiercely private. It was my secret battle, my hard-won peace. This year, for the first time in what felt like forever, I was genuinely looking forward to the holidays. I decorated my apartment, baked too many cookies, and felt the flicker of my old self. My parents had insisted the family gathering be at my apartment this year. "It's time you hosted, Ilara," my mother had said, a subtle undercurrent of "prove yourself" in her tone. I'd spent weeks preparing, polishing every surface, cooking every dish, trying to create a perfect haven for the people I loved, despite their flaws. As guests arrived, I tried to radiate warmth, a cheerful host. But the insidious tendrils of their gossip had already begun to choke the festive atmosphere. I saw the glances, the quick turns of heads, the hushed conversations that abruptly stopped when I entered a room. The pity in some eyes, the thinly veiled judgment in others. It was a slow, agonizing realization. My secret wasn't just known, it was being dissected, embellished, and weaponized against me. The worst part was the way my parents contributed, subtly twisting my past struggles into a narrative of instability, painting me as fragile and unreliable. Marcus, my brother, usually my reluctant ally, was noticeably absent from any defense. He simply watched, a placid, unreadable expression on his face. I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach. The very people who should have protected me were actively tearing me down, offering my pain as entertainment. That night, after everyone had left, the apartment felt empty and hollow. I slumped onto my couch, the weight of their betrayal crushing me. My mind raced, replaying every whispered word, every pitying glance. The shame was a burning coal in my chest, igniting a bitter anger. And then, a thought, a faint spark in the darkness, surfaced. My home security system. I had installed it 6 months prior after a series of minor break-ins in the neighborhood. High-definition cameras, motion-activated, with crystal-clear audio recording. I rarely remembered it was there, a silent sentinel in the corners of my living room and kitchen. A flicker of hope, cold and sharp, cut through my despair. Could it be? Could it have captured their cruel performance? With trembling hands, I navigated the app on my tablet, pulling up the recordings from the day. My heart pounded against my ribs. And there it was. Not just snippets, but hours of footage. Conversations in the living room, in the kitchen, by the snack table. I saw my mother, in her elegant red dress, casually discussing my episodes with Aunt Carol, embellishing details, exaggerating my vulnerability. My father, usually so stoic, chimed in, subtly implying that my career choices were a result of my fragile state. His words were laced with a dismissive pity. I watched as Marcus, my brother, offered a half-hearted sigh when Uncle David asked about my well-being, confirming their narrative without saying a word. The footage was damning. It wasn't just gossip. It was a deliberate, coordinated effort to undermine me, to paint me as the problematic child. My pain, my recovery, my private battle had been weaponized. Their motivations weren't subtle, they were glaringly obvious: control, image, and a twisted form of parental concern that felt more like judgment. I felt a strange calm settle over me, a cold fury replacing the searing shame. The betrayal was real, undeniable. And now it was recorded. This wasn't about revenge in the petty sense. This was about justice. About reclaiming my narrative, my self-worth, and exposing the true nature of their actions. The next day, I didn't confront them. I didn't rage. I simply continued my preparations for the annual New Year's Day brunch, a tradition that was always held at my parents' house. My parents, oblivious to my discovery, seemed more relaxed. My mother even offered a condescending, "You look a little brighter today, Alara." "That's good." I smiled, a thin, tight smile. They had no idea the storm brewing behind my calm demeanor. I spent the next few days editing the recordings. I meticulously cut together the most egregious moments, the clearest examples of their betrayal. I focused on the factual exposition of my secret and their subsequent discussions, the moments where their words confirmed their intent to paint me in a specific light. I wanted the truth to speak for itself, uncolored by my immediate emotion. This was not a plea for sympathy, but a demand for accountability. The New Year's Day brunch was a grand affair, as always. The house buzzed with extended family, laughter, and the clinking of champagne flutes. I arrived early, offering to help. My parents greeted me with a patronizing warmth, convinced I was still in the dark, still their easily managed, emotionally fragile daughter. After the main meal, when everyone was gathered in the living room, coffee cups in hand, my father rose to give his annual toast. "To family," he began, his voice booming. "To new beginnings, and to the bonds that hold us all together." I stood up then, a small, elegant USB drive in my hand. "Before we toast, Father, I have a small presentation. A look back at the holidays, perhaps." My parents exchanged puzzled glances, but my calm demeanor, devoid of any anger, disarmed them. "Oh, Elara, what have you put together?" My mother chuckled, assuming it was a sweet, naive gesture. I walked over to the large smart TV in the living room, connecting the USB drive to its port. The screen flickered to life. The first image was a still frame of my living room from the holiday gathering, warm and inviting. A pleasant, innocuous start. Then the audio began. My mother's voice, clear as a bell. She was so unstable after the breakup. Always so dramatic, our Laura. The chatter in the living room died. A stunned silence fell, broken only by the recorded voices, now amplified through the TV speakers. I watched my parents' faces contort, first in confusion, then in dawning horror. Marcus paled, his golden boy facade crumbling. The recording played on, a devastating symphony of their casual cruelty, their judgment, their subtle but relentless character assassination. Uncle David's jaw dropped. Aunt Carol, who had contributed so readily to the gossip, stared at her shoes, her face crimson. The relatives, many of whom had heard snippets or contributed their own, listened, riveted and aghast, as the full extent of the betrayal unfolded. The silence in the room was deafening, heavy with shame and disbelief. My parents tried to interrupt, stammering protests, but their voices were drowned out by their own recorded words. When the edited segment finished, the screen returned to a still image of my apartment's empty, decorated living room. The silence lingered, suffocating. I looked at my parents, then at Marcus. "That," I said, my voice steady and clear, "is the family that holds me together." "That's what new beginnings look like?" My mother burst into tears, not of remorse but of embarrassment and anger. My father's face was a mask of cold fury, but he had no words. Marcus finally spoke, his voice weak. "Elara, you shouldn't have done that. This is family business." "Family business?" I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping me. "No, Marcus. This was a public execution of my character, orchestrated by my own family. The difference is, you did it behind my back." I'm doing it to your faces with undeniable proof. I turned to the assembled relatives, many of whom looked away, unable to meet my gaze. I shared a vulnerable part of myself in trust. This is how it was handled. I came back from a dark place alone, and my privacy was used as entertainment and a weapon. You all witnessed it then, and you're witnessing the truth now. With that, I unplugged the USB drive, a silent declaration of severing ties. I walked out of the house, leaving behind the shattered remnants of their facade. Leaving that day, I felt a profound sense of liberation. The pain was still there, a dull ache, but the suffocating shame had lifted. I hadn't sought revenge. I had sought truth. I had given them the opportunity to see their own cruelty reflected back, amplified. My relationship with my parents and Marcus was irrevocably fractured. There were attempts at reconciliation, hollow apologies steeped in self-pity, but I held my ground. I learned that true family isn't just blood. It's respect, trust, and unwavering support, especially when you're at your most vulnerable. It took time, but I built a new life, surrounded by friends who truly saw and valued me. Not for an image I projected, but for who I was. The experience taught me the profound importance of boundaries and the quiet strength of self-worth. It was a painful lesson, but one that ultimately set me free. My home security system, a simple device for safety, became an unexpected instrument of truth, allowing me to finally reclaim my voice and my dignity. And that, for me, was the most satisfying vindication of all. After they exposed my secret, but my home security system recorded everything, what would you do first in that situation? Subscribe for more. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, comment with your ideas for the next video.